So this is all right. I'd like to welcome all Rotarians and guests on Zoom if there are any. My name is Steve Sperling and I'm the Rotary Club President for 2026.
I was wondering if that belonged to.
As I mentioned, in July, Rotary is highlighting maternal and child health. And as you know, President Francesco Areza highlights the Being United for Good this year. So Dave Mortel has offered to do the four-way test. Stand if you were able and some four-way test.
So please help me with the four-way test. Of all the things we can say and do, first is the truth. Second is despair all concern. Third will do it well in the matter. And fourth will be beneficial to all concerned. And fifth is it fun.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And just got your Frank. I don't want to press you right away here, but it's time for a happy thoughts. You don't have to do that. But if you're ready, I see you have a container there for all the cash. We're at the grand total of $57 now. And as we begin our journey towards $1,000 again.
All right, Vicky's first.
Yes, from Denmark. Sundsbak visiting. She was an exchange student 2 years ago, and her mom loved it. Woo!
I would like to say thank you for hosting me last year, and it's so nice to be back. And I'm excited to be here. I have to leave a little early, so I wanted to say thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. All right, well, I'm gonna come around this way too, Dave. Here's Alan.
All right, $5 says we can find new owners. I've been going through removing a charter house in another couple months, and I have an extra large 10th anniversary Rotary Bank Holiday Classic and a large sweater. It's beautiful, but I'm downsizing, and I hope we can find new homes for these. And if you want to make a donation to the Rochester Rotary Club Foundation, that would be even sweeter. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for the cause. I'm visiting from Seattle, and I'm here for the Mayo Clinic to help me out. And but I was really thinking I should look up and see if there's a meeting. And sure enough, I got out just in time to get here. So that's my happy thought that I made it to this.
Welcome, Colin.
My wife had back surgery last week, and several of you know, the only thing I do in the kitchen are the dishes. And your back surgery was so bad and so severe, I actually had to cook a few meals this past week. But I'm happy to say it's much better this week.
You know, they do DoorDash.
Yeah, I know about that.
Thought I'd mention.
And I'm coming over here to Ben. Making my way back.
I guess mine's not really a happy dollar per se, but it's more of an announcement. This weekend, I'm happy for it. We're doing Kids Day at the shop. So it's an opportunity for kids to come into the shop, get a shop tour. I'm going to be reading my children's book. We're going to have a touch a truck show. We have a fire truck coming down, a semi, a couple of trucks that are donated by our fleets and stuff. So if you know anyone or you got grandkids or whomever, Saturday, Saturday, 9 to 11 a.m. This Saturday, 9 to 11 at the shop. It should be a fun morning.
Thank you.
Excellent, wonderful. Over here to Randy.
Yeah, we just had a family reunion out in Denver, Colorado. 28 of us showed up and 28 of us got home safe, so it's a good trip.
Excellent, Dave.
I'm putting in 10 because I'm sharing two happy thoughts. One, I had the opportunity to go to Buffalo Wild Wings last night and celebrate Frank Allen's birthday. Oh, so that was wonderful. And then this morning, I got to play golf with my future son-in-law. I didn't do well on the first hole, but from that point on, I was one over for the rest. Wow. I felt really good. That was my happy thought. First time I'm golfing with this gentleman, so it made me feel good.
Good having you. All right, over here. Fred.
Okay. Sometimes I think we forget when we live here in Rochester how lucky we are to have the so-called Mayo Clinic. I'm sitting next to a gentleman who's visiting. I've lived here 40 years and never paid much attention to the fact that Mayo Clinic is a great place to get treated. Last week, my wife was in talking to her primary. She had a medical issue come up. And within the next 12 hours, she had been seen by 3 or 4 different specialists, gone through 2 or 3 different tests. She's having neurosurgery tomorrow. It's not going to be anything that's going to be serious in the sense that we don't expect it to be a problem for recovery. But just the fact that all this stuff is available and we just take it for granted. And that's my happy thought, that we're so lucky to be here.
Anyone else on this side? Going once, going twice, let's continue with the program.
John, any?
I think there's 9.
$9. Thank you for your.
Take cash today, or any type of that, otherwise John is my way. Audrey.
I just wanna, my happy thought, last weekend, I spent the weekend in Cleveland. My niece is getting married in October. And my other niece set up this whole amazing race for her bachelorette party, and it was a hoot.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Dollar, Rick,
One of the nine.
you're one of the nine. Big cash.
Hi, I'm visiting from Denver, hoping to join your club. And 2 weeks ago, past Monday, my wife fell and broke her hip. She was doing things that she shouldn't have been doing, standing on the bed, trying to put something on an island. And we're also very happy that the Mayo Clinic is here. But I haven't been here. This is my first time out without my wife since she broke it. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent.
My last happy thought is we're gonna be able to go visit next month.
Home and home, sir. Excellent. All right. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right, thanks for all those happy thoughts and contributions. Tried something different for those of you who were here a few minutes early. This time, we did a pre-meeting loop of slides. And we're going to try to condense the amount of announcements that we do and have the announcements on that pre-meeting slide. So if you're talking and socializing, that's great. But the announcements are going to be here on out on the pre-meeting slide. We'll still have some, but much fewer. So the birthdays and anniversaries were one of those things that was on the pre-meeting slide. So I want to just highlight that we congratulate all our members for July birthdays and anniversaries. And does anyone, we have guests?
We've got a couple guests. We've got Greg Hopkinson, like he introduced himself. He's back visiting from Denver Southeast. Michael also did a happy buck. Michael Harris is an accountant, and he also does sing-alongs, which sounds very interesting. He is from the Rotary Club of Pacific Northwest Ending Sex Trafficking. That's actually the name of their club. They've been in existence 3 years. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
3 years. So
20 members.
And 20 members. So we're very cool. Welcome, Michael. Then you met Tia. Tia's back visiting. Tia's going to school and living in Copenhagen while she goes to school. She's back for a few weeks visiting, staying with all three of her previous host families, plus some friends, so very cool. She was here 2 years ago. And then Lada, if you want to come on up this way, we're gonna give her a few minutes to talk. Come on down. Lada, they live in Hornbach, Denmark, so it's out on the coast, kind of an island or a beach community type thing. And she is a past president of her club, and we're gonna give her a few minutes of time to talk about Rotary Youth Exchange and whatever she'll talk about.
Yes. Well, I didn't write anything down, but I'm very happy to be here today and to meet you all because I actually attended a meeting online when Thea was giving a speech, and I am so impressed with what you do here in Rotary in Minnesota. And you have given my daughter a fantastic year. And Vicky was an amazing counselor. And the year here has not only been good for my daughter, it has also opened a lot of doors for her back in Denmark because she has gained all these human qualities. So that is one thing I'm very thankful for and very happy. And I'm also very happy to visit Minnesota and to feel at home. You know, just after a few days, we are visiting all the host families and meeting a lot of people, and everywhere I've heard of the phrase Minnesota nice. Maybe you heard about the Danish word hygge, but here I get both the Minnesota nice and the hygge. So, you know, it's nice with nice on top. And I also read that Minnesota is one of the best places to live, and in Minnesota, Rochester is one of the best places to live. Number one, of course. And I just want to say I can feel that. I feel that I'm in a safe community with people who take care of their community and who are always active and positive, and it's just a wonderful experience. And the first family I lived in, I ended up with the husband alone on Sunday, and he's a very outdoor man. And I was just planning and had asked for a quiet Sunday because I've been flying all the way, I need to adjust. And said, no, we need to go out. We need to go out. Do you want to go bicycling? I said, no. And you want to go canoeing? I said, Do you want to go tubing? Maybe we can go tubing. I said, yeah, that's nice. I've tried it once, you know, you just lie on the tube and going along down the river. I said, yeah, I can see I was like, do I see myself on a tube? Can I float on a tube? But I said yes, and I spent the Sunday tubing down the Root River for 3 hours. And it was the best thing I could do to get rid of my jet lag. It was the best time. Him and me, and we had a little rope between us, so we didn't lose each other on the river. So I have only good things to say about my visit here. And you are the #1 city in Minnesota. But you are, of course, all welcome to Denmark and to Copenhagen. And I can tell you that Copenhagen is now the best city to live in the world. So it's worth a trip, and we're looking forward to welcoming Vicky and Terry in August. So thank you very much for everything you do for your community and for the young people who visit here.
Thank you so much, Letta. Does anyone have any announcements? We'll get to you in just a second here. So again, it's most of the announcements we're playing on the pre-meeting slide loop. But if there are any questions, just let us know at any time, pretty much. One of the things that we had was at our board meeting yesterday. I wanted to make an announcement of this. The decision was made for our speaker honorarium for this year, and for 2025, 2026, the beneficiary of the speaker honorarium is Project Legacy, which provides hope, support, and mentoring for youth experiencing hardship. And they will actually be coming and presenting a program later this year. This is your reminder. There are a few people who have been longtime Rotarians who we are making the assumption are intending to continue their membership, but have not paid dues yet. And we just want to remind people that costs the club money because we've already had to pay Rotary International and district dues for the number of people who are in our membership. Oh, Larry, we forgot to welcome you. You came in. Larry was here 2 weeks ago, and welcome as a guest again, Larry. Larry, maybe after the meeting when we were talking, you mentioned about your time in the Air Force.
Yes.
Can you just say what you told me? That was kind of meaningful about the Rotary family.
Joined Rotary, I think in 98 or 99, Greater Rochester Rotary. And Rotary reminded me of the Air Force because it's worldwide and it's like a family.
Yeah. Thanks. I thought that was special. Thanks for saying that. Today's speaker is Jamie Sundsbak. Oh, no, before we go to Jamie, we have to make an announcement about the White Oaks Park. And we can go to the next one. And the benches. So this last week, well, actually, Dave, could you maybe talk about this a little bit?
Sure. So a number of months ago, Allie, she was here. There she is. Allie Good had stopped by the skate park to take a look at the condition of the benches that we had donated as part of the skate park. And if you look on the left side, that's an example of one of them. Another one that was further down had graffiti on it, and the one further to the right had considerably more rust. So at the last meeting, I had asked if a couple of folks could volunteer to help with repair of these benches. And we had a great group. We had Lance and Colin, myself and Steve and Don, and who am I missing?
Terry.
Terry. Yeah. Sorry, Terry. And we kind of separated duties, and some of us were sanding, some of us were using drills with wire brushes, but we got it done. And if you look on the one previous slide, if you look to the benches on the right side, you can see the finished product. They look beautiful. You can now clearly read the Rotary name on the back. So to all of you that volunteered to help with this project, to Ally, who identified the need for the project, a big thank you. It ended up really well, and if you go to the next slide, you can see the group of us. I didn't say John. John helped a couple of times. We went out and inspected the benches and decided what we needed. Steve and I went for an earlier visit, and then it was off to Menards to get some wire brushes and spray paint and stuff. So, yeah. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, the one thing we forgot were signs that we could put up that said wet paint. So I was hoping nobody said I'm happy to be finished. But it sounds like they weathered the storm. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Dave. Again, I want to highlight the golf outing, which is September 4th. Talk to Tamsin, not talk to, you can talk to Tamsin, but email Tamsin, that would be preferred. Then also, Lynn Clary mentioned to me one thing for the Tee It Up for the troops, that if we're going to be eating when we go, we need to get our meal order in very quickly. So I'm going to have Joseph put out an email reminder of that for anyone. And so we can get a meal count. Don't necessarily need a head count or number of people there, but we need a meal count and a reminder that we're going to meet at the pavilion. It's on the right side as you pull into the parking lot of Willow Creek. And then those that are eating will probably go together to get their meals from there. And then one highlights the opportunities that are available through Chamber of Commerce. They're listed here. They're also listed on the Chamber of Commerce website. So I want to remind people that opportunity is there for networking, and that's a wonderful potential way to recruit new members, but also recruit for your business as well. Okay, now we're going to talk about Jamie. Jamie, his program is titled Entrepreneurial Ecosystems Accelerating Community Growth. Jamie is a leader in health tech innovation and startup economy ecosystem development, currently serving as the director for Mayo Clinic Platform Accelerate. In this role, he supports early stage AI-driven health tech companies by connecting them with Mayo Clinic's clinical data, expertise, and networks to accelerate their path to market. Under his leadership, the program has grown significantly, with over 73 companies in the program and over $500 million raised post-graduation. I think I want to be in that. Cool. Before joining Mayo Platform, Jamie founded several key entrepreneurial initiatives in Rochester, including BioAm, a biotech startup meetup, the Collider, which most of you have heard of, the Collider nonprofit dedicated to supporting local entrepreneurs. These initiatives have played a pivotal role in transforming Rochester into an emerging hub for medtech entrepreneurship and small and medium-sized business growth in this region. Through his efforts, Rochester's innovation ecosystem continues to thrive, and he remains a strong advocate for its continued growth. And he's also extremely honored to be a Paul Harris Fellow. Thanks, Judy.
Okay, we're going to do some technical reorganization. I like to hold mics. I'm not a mic stand person, so give you a second here, Joseph. Well, I want to say thank you to Rotary. This is a real honor to come back and to talk to you all today about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, something that I've spent the last 20 years really laser focusing on. And I thought I'd do it in two parts. The first, since you're all eating, and sorry for shoveling food if you notice me over there, but I had to get it done because I'm giving a talk. It'll be a little more lecture-based, right? Helping you understand the components of a successful entrepreneurial ecosystem and maybe some actionable insights that you can take. The second is going to be more of an exercise of my story of how I took these principles and was able with a small but mighty group of people here in Rochester to really push that agenda forward to really promote and support entrepreneurs here in Rochester. All right, are we ready?
Yes.
That was a long-winded way of giving you time, Joseph. All right, now, Joseph, your first task is to uncover you in this picture. This is like a Where's Waldo? Where's Joseph?
Oh, wow.
So this is one of my most favorite pictures. This is from a startup weekend that we ran, where in 54 hours over a weekend, you go from idea to startup company, or at least in theory. You learn all of the ins and outs of being an entrepreneur, and you pitch at the end on a Sunday night your solution. And Joseph, who I wish I had a laser pointer. Thank you, Joseph. He was up there. This man does not age, by the way. How long ago was that? That's got to be
I would say 8 years
8
ago.
years ago. He has not aged a day. I unfortunately have. So, but it was a great group of people. It engaged young folks, older folks, and all together because they wanted to work together to support themselves to help build businesses. So it's still, whenever this picture comes up at home, I smile and I remember those days fondly and know that so many of these people went on to start their own companies, to do great things in their community was fantastic. All right, next slide. So who am I? I don't like to be self-promotional. It's not in my nature, but I just want to give you a little bit of a background of who I am and what I do. I started out in this community. I brought a startup company to Rochester in about 2006, called Life Science Nexus. I then couldn't make that work, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, and then did what a lot of other people do, go to work for Mayo Clinic in various roles in clinical and research. And then I was fortunate enough to be asked to help start in the Department of Surgery, an incubator for early stage medical devices. So working with surgeons at Mayo, who are some of the most brilliant people in the world, and helping them create these tools to be able to save lives around the world. And then I took a little bit of a detour and said, I think the time is right to really laser focus on supporting entrepreneurs. I felt strongly I wanted to do that. So I created an organization with several others called Collider, which then became the Collider Foundation. And about 3 years ago, the gravitational pull of Mayo pulled me back. And I was given an opportunity of a lifetime, which is to build an accelerator for health tech startups that was international. And so I couldn't pass up that offer, and it's been going very well. Next slide. So today, again, as I said earlier, there's kind of two topics. One is a little bit of an educational piece around what is an entrepreneurial ecosystem, how do they work, what are the key components, and then sort of feed that in with a story about my journey, which I kind of gave you a high level on. I'll go a little bit deeper here later in the talk. Next slide. Sorry, Joseph, you're gonna have to move. You're gonna play chess with this. Too many graphics, but so what is an entrepreneurial ecosystem? Well, there's a lot of fancy definitions out there, but at the end of the day, it's a support network that supports and surrounds entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are at the center of everything that an entrepreneurial ecosystem is focused on. Very akin to Mayo's primary value of the needs of the patient come first and creating capabilities to support those patients. We do the same thing in entrepreneurial ecosystems, except instead of patients, we have entrepreneurs. And that's something that we feel really strongly about. And everything that is in their orbit to support them really is always focused on the needs of the entrepreneur. So why do entrepreneurial ecosystems matter? And I used to get this question all the time when I spoke in front of people. Why should we care? Well, the first thing is entrepreneurship fosters innovation. And when I say entrepreneurship, I don't mean just high tech, high growth businesses, internet companies, life science companies. That's part of it. But it's the small and medium-sized businesses that really are what power our communities. And as I started to see over the years that maybe it was harder and harder for small and medium-sized businesses to survive. I wanted to try to do something about it because even in small and medium-sized businesses, you can drive amazing innovations into a community that can then lead to generation of jobs. In fact, a little known statistic that I have latched onto for years is all net new jobs in the United States are started by small and medium-sized businesses and startups. Everybody says when I ask them, oh, it's corporations, right? Corporations, that's all new net jobs. That's completely not true. In fact, corporations are the biggest shedder of jobs, especially in the AI age right now. All of this bolsters the resistance of an economy to make it stronger and make it more diverse. As a Mayo, excuse me, as a Mayo Clinic employee, I obviously thank Mayo every day for the good work it does. I think it's an amazing institution to have in a city like Rochester. It is I've traveled all over the world. This is such a rare thing to have this amazing world-class medical center in a town the size of Rochester. And I think it's an amazing combination. But at the same time, it's the big industry in town. And I know some of you have spent some years working in economic development. That's not always a good thing. You think of communities like Detroit, who are so focused on the auto industry, and things change. So something else that I feel strongly about is empowering entrepreneurship in different verticals so that if, God forbid, anything were to ever happen, Rochester could weather that storm. And I think we had our first test, as most ecosystems did around the world, with COVID and how that changed the dynamics of our community. And then something that's new, and I guess a little bit biased based on what I do today, is leveraging this sort of digital transition. So we are in an amazing age. We are in, I think, the third or fourth big opportunity I've seen in my life to leverage what's coming down the road in terms of AI. So what does that mean to business? So as an experiment 5 months ago, I said, I'm going to create a fake business and I'm going to use AI to help. I was able to, in 30 minutes, write a really solid business plan, create a pitch deck, create a marketing deck, get my account spun up on every social media, all with a couple of prompts using ChatGPT and some agents that I was able to utilize. That technology is going to get simpler and easier for everybody. There's good and bad with that, but the important message is if you ever wanted to start a business, this is the best time to do it because the barrier to entry continues to get lower and lower, and it will allow you to make that jump with confidence and to do something that's really, really astounding. Next slide. So the key components of a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, and these all have to be present to make an entrepreneurial ecosystem work. You cannot have a gap. The minute you have a gap, it doesn't work. It all falls apart. And I've seen this over and over as I've traveled the country, embedded myself in other entrepreneurial ecosystems to learn what to bring back to Rochester. So obviously, number one, you need entrepreneurs. Like if you don't have entrepreneurs, what are we even doing? But I'd say the next derivative of that is you need people who want to take risks, right? Before you start a business, you've got to be willing to take that jump and take that risk. And entrepreneurs, to me, are the most brave people on earth. They go in and they may risk their homes, their savings, sometimes their marriages to really believe in something that they want to do. And it's a privilege to be able to serve them over the years. You got to have money. Access to capital is a big deal. That's why for a lot of small and medium-sized business, you have a great community of banks here and individuals who are willing to loan money. For higher tech businesses, you need something a little bit different. You need investors. You need angel investors. You need venture capitalists. You need people that will be able to help those companies grow. When I got here in 2006, it really didn't exist. And we've seen more things come online, which is really exciting. And I think we'll continue to see more as really the way you build a venture community is you have entrepreneurs succeed. When they succeed, they want to give back and they want to invest in new companies. Sport organizations and services. We have amazing economic development folks here in Ready, in DMC, and others who all believe this and are walking the walk and talking the talk. Collider is another organization that really supports entrepreneurs. Really all to drive the next thing, which is culture and networks. You've got to have that culture inculcated in everything you do. You've got to think about entrepreneurs day and night and how you can support them to really make it work. Markets and corporate partners. Obviously, we have corporates that are able to leverage investment dollars, support dollars, charitable dollars to help some of these things happen. And of course, someone's got to buy your products, right? So that's the other side of the market. And then policy and government. You have to have a government that is very entrepreneurial and business friendly. That policies, I've worked in communities across the US where, they have, half-cent city sales tax. That goes into a fund to actually support entrepreneurs and get them off the ground. There's things like that that are more progressive ways to think about that, that several governments are doing. I think ours is slowly catching up to some of that stuff, but I think it's super important. All right, next slide. So the best practices for building this ecosystem is, I think, first and foremost, put entrepreneurs front and center. I've said that over and over. You're going to hear it probably a few more times. I apologize. And then something I want to introduce is called Give Before You Get. And I'm talking to Rotary. I think that is the perfect audience. I think you do this every single day as Rotarians. But you want to give of yourself, whether that's your dollars, your experience, a high five if an entrepreneur is feeling down, support, emotional support, anything that you can give an entrepreneur without any expectation of reward is so critical. And it's amazing how that giving comes back to you later in really unexpected ways. And I could spend another 20 minutes talking about the ways that it's benefited my family and my life over the years just by giving to entrepreneurs first. You got to be able to connect the dots. You got to be able to map your ecosystem, understand what services are out there. How can you point entrepreneurs to the right service at the right time to help them grow? And you've got to have some early wins. If you can't tell the story of 3 successful entrepreneurs in your community, you're not going to be able to build on that. Stories are what really powers an ecosystem. It's less about numbers and facts and figures. That's all great if you're applying for grants or you want to really convince a government they should think a certain way or become more business friendly, but it's the stories that have the power. An entrepreneur-friendly policy environment, that goes hand in hand with what I just said. And you have to commit to a long-term vision. So I went to Boulder, Colorado, and I met a gentleman named Brad Feld who changed my life. Brad Feld is the author of the book Startup Communities. He's one of the people who launched one of the first business accelerators called Techstars. And when I met with him, he said, "How long do you plan to do this?" And I said, "I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years." He's like, "Try 10. You've got to commit for the next decade to do this, or it won't work. You might as well even not start." And then at the same time, find the next generation of people who are going to pick up the torch, because 10 years is a long time. You want to give some new blood, get them in the ring, and let them go with their ideas. So that was something that I think it was a statement that really changed my life. Next slide. So that's all the learning part. Hopefully I didn't put you all to sleep, but let's talk about how this works in action. So 2006, I moved back to Rochester after a 5-year hiatus. My wife and I moved out to Salt Lake City, Utah. We were recruited by the University of Utah to do some research out there. And we spent some time out there. We loved it. And there was an amazing entrepreneurial ecosystem in Salt Lake in the early 2000s. And so everybody was starting companies. So what did I do? I started a company. I started a tech company that was a very kind of early social media type company for scientists and clinicians. Got it off the ground there, started to get some traction, and then my wife did this thing. I don't like living here. Can we move back to Rochester? And I was like, man, Joseph and I were just talking about mountains and how much we love mountains. Not too many mountains around here, unfortunately. but it is a fantastic community. So my wife got a job at Mayo. I came along and I brought this company with me. And you know what I found? The first time on earth, I had never been in an ecosystem that was like super supportive. In fact, I couldn't find people who would even take a meeting with me. It felt really isolating as someone who came with the company. I felt alone. I was told constantly to go to Minneapolis because that's where they start companies. They don't start companies here. Did that, and it didn't work out too well. And then my favorite line, which I received from someone at that time who was pretty prominent in the city, who said, "You don't realize one thing. The internet is a fad. Get over it." This was in 2006. Then I was like, I don't know where I am. But like, I can't make a company work here. And inevitably I couldn't. I couldn't raise money. I couldn't find people to hire. Couldn't make it work. So I did what everybody else does. I checked a box and I went to work for Mayo because I have a background in molecular biology. I worked in various labs. It was an amazing opportunity, but it simply kept bugging me day in and day out that we have this world-class medical institution. I've been, again, all over the country. Boston's a great example. There's hundreds of startup companies that come out of intellectual property created there. We didn't have any. And I've learned why over the years. Don't need to go into that because it's a business model that works. And if it doesn't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I totally understand that. But we didn't have entrepreneurs. So I said, what can I do? There's two choices. I can leave and do what everybody else says, go move to Minneapolis, or I can try to plant my feet in the ground and say, I'm going to try something. It's probably going to fail. That's okay. So, next slide. I started an organization called BioAM. And the idea was that we were going to be the dawn of biobusiness in Rochester. Because I knew if I dug hard enough, I would find people that want to be entrepreneurs in our community. And I wanted to get them together. I wanted to create a meetup group so that every month we could start having conversations about how we move forward and make positive progress every single month. And it was great. The first meetup, I left my house and I told my wife, no one's going to show up. That we can think about selling the house and moving. But I showed up. I had my little thing of coffee, my little thing of donuts. It was in the morning. 40 people showed up. And it scared me. I didn't think I was going to get that many. And it kept growing. People said, you need to do events in the evening. So I traded my donuts and coffee for beer and pizza. And I self-funded it all. I was like, why would you get a sponsor to do this? Until someone convinced me I should get a sponsor. But it worked. And suddenly people were having conversations. And then the amazing thing started happening. People that didn't care about medicine started showing up and saying, I want to be an entrepreneur too. Is this the right group for me? You seem to be the only one doing anything. And I was like, I don't think that's necessarily true. There's great organizations like the Chamber and others that do great things. But I think it's really tapped into something. So I did that. I did 300 events in 2 years. I brought a thing called Global Entrepreneurship Week to Rochester. I brought Startup Weekend. Basically, I just stole everything from every other place and brought it here. And people thought I was some sort of amazing person. And no, I just copied and pasted, right? And it worked out really well. Next slide. About the same time, someone that worked in the lab that I was working as a graduate student, Amanda Leitner, said, I'm very interested in business. And you seem to know something about business. And I said, well, what are you interested in? And she said, I'm interested in supporting entrepreneurs, but I want to tell their stories. And I said, well, what better way than to create a podcast where you could interview local entrepreneurs and, send that out to the community or even beyond. And so she started this thing called Rochester Rising that we co-founded and got it off the ground in 2016. I just looked before I came here. Rochester Rising is on its 328th episode. It has run uninterrupted since 2016 to highlight the impact of entrepreneurs in our community. So for you podcast fans, definitely check it out. It was fantastic and it built a I think a very lasting partnership between Amanda and I is people who really cared about the community. And what I started to do is think about BioAM, Rochester Rising, like there's all these different groups. Why can't we bring them together under one organization? Next slide. So well, it depends on who's telling the story, but we formed Collider. So the idea was to bring the best parts of BioAM, the best parts of Rochester Rising, all under one roof, and add some additional capabilities of gaps that we see in our community to help entrepreneurs grow and thrive. Slide. So what did we do? We did 4 pillars, and I'm not a big pillar fan, but it made sense at the time. The first was one-to-one startup support. So we would meet with startup companies, with small, medium-sized businesses, and we just asked one simple question: what can we help you with? And then all of a sudden, if you know or are an entrepreneur, a lot of stuff comes out. And then you're taking notes seriously, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I can do all this to help this person. But we would then, our mantra was to go and find an answer within 24 hours. That was always our goal. Did we always do it? No, but we tried really, really hard. And I'm proud to say that last year, I looked up these stats and threw them on here because this is all Amanda's work, who actually, once I moved back to Mayo, took over as executive director of Collider Foundation. But Collider last year helped 210 entrepreneurs in our community. And when we give our little satisfaction survey back, 80%, roughly 79% said, yes, what you did, how you helped me overcome that obstacle that I was having at that point. So I think it's been really impactful in the community. We brought entrepreneurial education. We partnered with a national group called Co-Starters to bring entrepreneurial education to the community to help influence and support that next generation of entrepreneurs. And we built a co-working space, a place where we could, as I would say, have those meetups that I ran with BioAM every single day to get entrepreneurs together in one space to support each other, to work with each other. And it worked out really well. In fact, in our heyday, we had 3 locations in downtown Rochester. So we were doing very, very well. And then storytelling, folding in Amanda's work, expanding it to a blog, and really telling the stories of all the entrepreneurs in Rochester. Next slide. So I think I said at the beginning, this was my passion. Collider, I thought I would spend the rest of my life at Collider. We weathered the storm through COVID. We actually got a $250,000 grant right before COVID. And it turned out that the Kauffman Foundation, the group in Kansas City that awarded us the grant, we had a very specific use for that grant. But during COVID, they said, just keep businesses alive. You can spend it however you want. They changed the terms of the grant. It was the most amazing thing that we were empowered to do. So we spent so much time through COVID helping small and medium-sized businesses specifically. We helped people who had a brick and mortar presence but have never had an online presence, didn't know how to sell stuff online. We helped them transition to that during COVID to help them. We started to empower other entrepreneurs. We saw amazing entrepreneurs say that we're cooking food out of their house and selling it, trying to tell them, hey, maybe it's time for you to open a restaurant. Here's how we could help you do that. There's so many things that we were able to do, but I'll be honest, I got really tired because every day we were trying to support entrepreneurs through one of the biggest disasters probably in our lifetime, and it was really draining. So one day I got the call that changed my life, and it was from Google. And Google said, hi, we're Google. And I was like, hi, you're scamming me. Like, not Google. And they said, yeah, we were looking online and we saw one of your co-working spaces. We're moving into Rochester and we're going to open the first Google office in Minnesota in Rochester. And I was like, why? And they said, we're partnering with Mayo Clinic and our cloud is going to be the backbone for this new initiative called Mayo Clinic Platform. And I said, that sounds cool. Could you introduce me to some people? And through a lot of conversations, showing what we were able to leverage in the community, they said, the work you do in the community is great. could you do that on a global scale? And I was like, no. You've seen one entrepreneurial community, you've seen one entrepreneurial community. It doesn't scale like that. And they said, well, could you try? And I said, oh, okay, I'll think about it. So 3.5 years ago, made the leap back to Mayo and started Accelerate, which is our global accelerator for AI medtech startups. It is now ranked in the top 3 for medtech accelerators in the world. You heard the impressive numbers of what we've been able to do. That's not what we've been able to do. That's what the great companies that have graduated from our program have gone on to do. The one that is going to about very soon to the most famous company of them all is a company called Open Evidence, which is now worth $3.5 billion. So, and when we met them, they were worth roughly, well, not even 20 million. So I think that's a really good testament. Over half the physicians in the United States use their services already. So it's a great thing. But I put this here not to advertise my current job. Maybe that's another speaking gig later on. But it was more of what I learned from every single person in our community, interacting with them over the decade and a half that I've been fortunate enough to do this work. I could then bring to build this. And it was really the community that built this, not me. It's just the lessons I was able to learn came from our community. And I just can't say enough about this community and how wonderful it is. Next slide. So how can you help? How can you contribute to our entrepreneurial ecosystem? For those of you that already have businesses, you're doing it. Thank you. You're doing the hard work. For those of you that aren't, here's how you can help. First of all, listen to our entrepreneurs and small business people. Just a simple question, how you doing? That can start and unlock a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions sometimes, and latch onto that one thing and think about how you can help. In fact, if everybody in this room did that this week, I think we could move entrepreneurship forward by leaps and bounds. Just by doing simple things, the simple act of listening, and then thinking about how you could give first from what you hear. And it's not always money. People always say, well, they're just going to ask me for money. No, sometimes it's very simple things. I had an entrepreneur tell me once that before a big speaking engagement, he would get sick. And the only way he could survive that is to get, this is weird, I eat a ham sandwich. He was at an event, he was speaking. I noticed that he didn't eat beforehand, and I went out and got him a ham sandwich. So it's those little things that can make all the difference for our entrepreneurs. And by doing that, you build community and you build trust from our entrepreneurs to know that they're supported every single day. And it helps to bridge the gaps. You know, we have gaps in Rochester. We're not perfect, but we could be if we continue to build that trust, to listen, and to move forward. So this is my favorite quote. Don't know how many comic book fans are out there, but this is what I tell every single person when they fill my position in anything I've done for the last 20 years. And this is in regards to, you know, Miles Morales, this character who is basically the next Spider-Man. He's taking over from the classic Spider-Man. And his statement at the end of the movie is anyone can wear the mask. Anyone can be a superhero for entrepreneurs. Anyone. You can all be the superhero for every entrepreneur in our community. And if you didn't know that before, I hope you do now. So thank you. And 1 minute early. And we do have time for some questions if.
Really enjoyed your presentation. Some years ago, I was talking with an executive at one of the large companies, global companies in our community. And I said, what's Rochester missing? And this was probably pretty close to 15, 18 years ago. He said, you can get a business started, but eventually you need a level of talent that we can't have here. How are you now with your growth of this, overcoming that problem, because these things get scaled up when you grow.
Absolutely, that is a fantastic question. I think, we tried to map the ecosystem very early. And there's a couple of things that we found, if we look at cities of similar size, that we were lacking. The biggest one was 100-year-old four-year university. We didn't have that. We've got RTC, or RCTC, we've got now a growing presence at the University of Minnesota, but we didn't have that type of university to continuously turn out talent to help support those businesses. That's still a problem. Like, that's a gap, right? That's something that I think we need to think about. I jokingly said one day we should start Mayo College. And then back then I was like, we could use the IBM campus. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. But I think that's one of the big things. It's hard to get people, attracted to the community. I think that's, one of the big goals of Destination Medical Center and others. The other thing is I've met a number of really talented people. We used to call them trailing spouses. Now we call them accompanying talent. I really don't care. They're just spouses that are looking for something to do and they can't find something to do here. We need to really understand who they are, what their skill set is, and how we can plug them into our community. And that's something that we always wanted to do, but we never had an opportunity to do it. So I'd say continuing to figure out how we could draw people here from an educational stance or post-education to figuring out who's got the capabilities in our community that we just don't see, I think is very important.
One more question.
Yeah, great presentation. I have the privilege of also working at Mayo, and I'm always intrigued by how do you connect pioneers and dreamers to realists and profit making?
It's it takes a special person, and there's I think if I hadn't experienced other ecosystems to see it's possible, I probably would have just said, I can't, why am I putting my time and energy into this? But I see a lot of clinicians at Mayo who have brilliant ideas, but they don't know how to build a business. And vice versa. I see a lot of people who know how to build a business, there's just a terrible idea there. And so trying to find a way to marry those two, I think, that's what these meetups were all about. I can tell you, and this is, don't think you have to cut this, Joseph. We were talking about editing of speeches. My second meetup, word got out that I was a Mayo Clinic employee at the time, and I was doing a meetup for entrepreneurs outside of Mayo Clinic's campus. I was met at the door by representatives from our business development group at Mayo Clinic with NDAs that said if anybody from Mayo walks in here, they have to sign an NDA because they'll talk about intellectual property. And I said, instead of doing that, I'm not doing that because I don't think legally we have to do that. They should know. But instead of that, why don't you all come inside and see what the power of connecting entrepreneurs, business people, support people looks like. And to this day, those people I met at the door are some of my best friends at Mayo Clinic. So that's a long-winded answer. It doesn't really actually answer the question, but I think you get people together, you allow them to have conversations, you allow them to build that trust, and they can do amazing things.
One last question over here, Mark.
You vanished.
Thank you for a very good presentation. I'm a journalist by training, so I can only agree that storytelling is a powerful tool that can inspire people and make connections. I have a question because you said you work globally. And our grandson is in a program in Denmark at the technical university who train people to do exactly what you're talking about, developing new solutions, technical solutions for the medical, the health industry. So if I was to introduce your organization to them, would that make sense, and how would it work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, hey, I have a wireless mic. I will give you my card and you can reach out when you get back. And I would also love to come to Denmark. Yeah. Happy to do that. Last word.
Jamie, I've been able to cross paths with you over the years, and I know a lot of people that utilize your space, or not a lot, but I've known a few that I call good friends still today. I guess my biggest question, you talk about our ecosystem as a general whole, you focusing more on the biomedical and the medical development, startup companies. When you view the whole ecosystem as far as everything else around that, what are you guys doing to feel like a guy who wants to start up an auto repair shop, a guy who wants to start up an electronic or whatever, something outside the Mayo Clinic realm, mechanical or trade or anything like that? What are you guys providing for resources in that area?
So that's another great question. So if you would have asked me back when I was executive director of Collider, I'd be like, look, I gotta pick a major, I gotta pick a lane, right? And I know medicine, I know technology, that's what I'm passionate about. COVID taught us something different. That there were so many more small and medium-sized businesses and people that didn't want to build high-tech solutions in our community. And so I always say that Collider found its footing, not in the area I thought, which would be high-tech, high growth. It was in small and medium-sized business support. So now if you go to Collider, especially with the good work that Amanda and her team have done, it is almost entirely about small and medium-sized businesses to this day. You know, we've merged with I was gonna say a big, beautiful space, but I'm gonna put that. On BioBusiness 6 downtown, which brings together Ready, the Black Entrepreneur Group, Collider and others. So there's a one-stop shop. If you want to start a business in this community, go to BioBusiness 6 downtown. You will find the right people to plug you in. So to answer your question, I think that's where Amanda and her team have really shined in the last, 3.5 years. Is they're almost exclusively focused on everyone else. And we'll let other groups do that to build it on the high tech, high growth.
Jamie, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And thanks for your presentation. We will be giving a donation in your name, as you heard, to Project Legacy. And as we mentioned that before. Special thank you today to all participating members and volunteers for the program. John Woodruff, Sergeant at Arms, Dave Martell, four-way test, reflection, Lada, greeter, Tom Aldis, Happy Bucks, Frank, and introduction of guests, Vicky, Alan, and once again, AV and tech support, without whom we could not have these wonderful meetings, Joseph, and our speaker, Jamie Sundsbak. Would like to just remind all Rotarians to go forth into the world and unite for good.
So Steve, one quick comment before you ring the bell. I have to apologize with Sarah. You were the one that told me about the benches. Thank you. And I apologize for missing that. No, but thank you. And yes, and thank you to Lori for the work that you did as well.
Oh, we have a presentation of a flag. Thank you very much. Oh, John.
Yeah, that's all. The VFW gave me a whole stack of 10% off if you ever want to go back on your own.
Oh, wonderful bonus.
Yes, I realized I didn't bring the flag of the Hornbeck Rotary Club, but I'd like to give it to you. The greetings.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Anything else before ringing the bell? We are adjourned.